you can say it's been a heartbreak, because I did not leave Rangers, so it's more like I got released.
Just a quick one before we get into this episode. I just want to let you know that this episode was recorded before Michael Beale's departure from QPR. Since we recorded this episode, he is now the Rangers manager. Hope you enjoy it and take care.
Hello listeners, and welcome back to another episode of the Beautiful Game Podcast. I'm with my right hand man Dej. How are you today, bro?
I'm happy today. Today we've got a first returning guest, and this one's going to be a special one because the first time round was an epic podcast, so I know it's going to be same again.
Definitely, this is a man of his word. He said, look, we're going to do a part 2, and obviously today we're delighted to bring you that part 2. Before we introduce our guests, I just want to plug our socials. Follow our Twitter at podcast_TBG, our Instagram at pod_TBG, and our TikTok that's blowing up right now, TBG Pod. Also, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and leave a comment for the algorithm. We're delighted to announce we're joined again for part 2 with QPR centre-back, Man Mountain, Leon Balogun.
Welcome, brother.
Felt like you're announcing new signing.
Welcome, my guy. Love for coming on. Obviously,
Thanks,
we've stayed in regular contact. Yeah. Man of your word, proper man. So, love for coming on again.
Thanks for having me again. Beautiful Game Podcast in a new beautiful studio as well.
Yeah.
So, it's good to be here.
Love, bro.
It was about time.
Definitely, because we were speaking during the summer. When you were a free agent and stuff, and we were discussing certain stuff, and you were very, very open and about how you were trying to find a new club. So, like, first of all, how is that sort of looking for a new club once you left Rangers?
Stressful. Yeah. Can't lie. I've been in a similar situation before, I think in 2014. I've done my metatarsal, broke my foot in my debut for Nigeria. Missed out on the World Cup. That club back then did not sign me on, so I was not in a great place, but I was very, very positive. Completely different setup than now 8 years later, because I hadn't really done much until that point in football. So I had even my parents in my ear back then saying, like, maybe, especially, Nigerian dad. So I was like, okay, now is the time for you to study. It's not yet. And during all that time, I remember how people asked me, how did I stay so positive? And I just said, look, I just have faith, and I know it's not over yet. And then, surprisingly, why I'm telling you this is this summer I struggled. It was hard because I had done a few bits by now or by then,
but winning the Scottish League, Scottish Cup,
just even in terms of building my career, building like a bit of profile, even financially, like as I said back then, I hadn't done too much, so it's a completely different setup, much more settled and everything, much less to worry about, and then here I am thinking, what's going on, like feeling myself being stressed. Couldn't have always been easy for my girlfriend at home who's been with me, and I tried to balance it out. Can't lie, I felt like I was overwhelmed with the whole situation. Everybody was like, yeah, just take some time off, travel, but I felt like I couldn't because I need to be ready. I need to be ready for the day.
I messaged you saying that, Leon, don't chop live too much, and you're like, bro, what live? Man's chopping runs.
Yeah, exactly. So I was just pretty much running through Glasgow. Shout out to some of my friends that I met outside of football, Sean from Kershkicks and Vinny. He works at Size actually. They became good mates of mine. played with them in Power League Glasgow.
Okay.
Which was just a good way to get some football in, really, because I was by myself. Apart from that, just running. There was another guy. I promise him that I'm going to mention him. His name is Bill from the University of Glasgow. He allowed me to use their football pitches just to do some pitch-based running. That obviously helped me massively when I then joined QPR. But yeah, that summer, I mean, I was in Ibiza for a week, and then in Italy, Naples and Positano with my girlfriend. That was beautiful. But as soon as I got back to Glasgow, I just found myself thinking, okay, what's next? Talking to clubs, then turning me down. Mostly it was my age, which is very frustrating, which probably played a big part in the whole thing of me feeling so down, because I just played more games in the past 2 seasons than I ever played before, like on the spin. And you keep hearing, yeah, fitness, he's too old, he's too old. I'm like, what do you mean? You know? And that was just tough, really. So I was even more delighted when QPR finally happened, because we spoke at the beginning of summer when the news broke that Rangers released me, and then didn't really happen. But we kept in touch, and here I am, London boy now, Queen's Park Rangers, and it's been going pretty well so far.
Just a very quick one before we move into QPR. When you say stress, like what do you mean? Like, what did that entail? Was that like sleepless nights, lack of appetite? Like, what do you mean by the stress?
It's more like I was just constantly worried. I'm a quite positive guy and laid back. I don't stress too much, but it was just like this cloud over my head the whole time. Like, what if, like I came to think about, okay, if I were to stop playing now, I wouldn't even know what I would do. Like, you always think about things.
So that came into your mind.
Yes, but it just hits you hard, because for the past years I'm thinking, okay, what can I do after my career? And I am building things outside of football, building relations, trying to build certain things and create certain things. But it just came to realization how quick it can end, It could be over. I knew it wasn't going to be over, but then it's just that if it were to be over now, you wouldn't be ready to do all the things that you have in mind, So that just gave me a different perspective. And I always thought I'm quite switched on with everything, but it's just it can be over so quick, So then you think about all these players, how they must have felt when they got an injury and then heard, look, that's it for you, your career is done. So that was just the main thing, and then just constantly think, okay, what can I do? What if the right club doesn't come about? What if it's not what I really want? Like, I feel I can still perform on a high level, but then you keep hearing, he's too old, maybe he doesn't have the legs anymore, we're scared that this, that, and I'm like, oh, please.
So, like, in terms of, I know there was interest, there was phone calls. At what level was this? Was this Championship, Prem? Was this abroad?
Mainly Championship, a little bit abroad. There was one very interesting thing from the MLS. They pretty much I was still with Nigeria when my agent told me about that, because we had 2 friendlies and 2 qualifiers. So he called me one day and said, look, I think that would be very interesting, because he knows that I'm interested in culture and like just getting to know things outside of football, getting life experience, really. So that would have been potentially in Chicago. I don't know if a deal would have happened in the end, but they were very interested. But they wanted to know at first, is he up for it, actually? And I thought about it and I was like, it would be amazing. Chicago, there's loads of culture, black history even in that city in terms of music and stuff, but said to myself, that's too far from my family. It's just too far. I couldn't do it because I hardly get to see them now, because the schedule's been so busy over the past 2 years, and now it's still busy, and then it would be different time zones, travel would be much longer, and on days off, 2 days off or something, you couldn't just hop on a plane, say, okay, let me go Berlin real quick and come back. That's no chance. So I said, and even probably would have been not longer than 2-3 years, but still, it's like, it's not that my parents or other family members getting any younger. So I said, I have to miss that one out. And so that was one very interesting one, but then a little bit from Middle East, Germany as well, but nothing really concrete where you're like, okay, right. So the thing that was most likely to happen other than QPR was probably Wigan. I said that before a few weeks ago after we played them. Been in touch with them. But yeah, when then QPR really had to go for it. And obviously with having worked with Mick before,
because I advised that one for you as well. It's funny because like a few weeks before the deal actually happened, I was like, bro, like QPR will be good. So it's crazy the way everything just worked out, man.
I know. And you told me even that you knew Jake there and stuff.
Got a good relationship with him.
So it was just it was funny. Maybe it was on you.
Where's my commission? I haven't got my agent's fee.
You need to speak to Les Ferdinand. Les, if you see this, he's coming for you.
So why QPR? Obviously, Les Ferdinand, the technical director, they're doing a fantastic job. Obviously, Mick Beale, who you've worked with previously, but what was the process behind saying, you know what, QPR, this is the perfect sort of marriage for me at the moment?
I think the fact that I also always wanted to live in London, you know. I think London is a great city, loads to explore. As I said before, that's always something that interests me. It's good for my girlfriend as well. It's close to the family. I do have family in London, or let's say London area because it's too big. But and then I think Mick Beale was the main factor, you know. And then one funny thing is QPR actually did try to sign me before I signed with Rangers. So it almost felt like, you know what,
finally the time
didn't work out back then. But maybe now is the time, now that QPR comes around again, maybe now is the time to come here. And then with the whole setup with Mick Beale being here, really wanting to work with me as well, I thought, you know what, that's probably it. And then, as I said, it broke down actually twice before it really happened, but it kept coming up. And yeah, just the desire then as well, as I said, to live in London, to be able to live in London, that was, the combination of that was just great.
I think you're a Ranger for life. That's what it shows. Ranger for life.
And blue fever.
So, like, in terms of coming in mid-season, because a few games had already taken place, so how did you find that sort of adjusting, getting up to match tempo?
I don't want to say it was easy, but it was easier than expected. I think that's fair to say. Because the team is unbelievable. We have like an amazing group just in terms of chemistry. So they made it quite easy for me. I think Mick and his man management and the way he deals with players also helps a great deal. I think I'm not too bad of a bloke myself, so you know, I didn't come in there with a big time attitude telling everyone, okay, you did this. No, that's not me. Probably a bit of the bad cop attitude sometimes, you know, because I'm a bit of a different generation than most of the players. So there might or might not have been a few little rants on my behalf, but I take accountability for that. But I think sometimes that's needed. No, but it's a great group. And then I think I actually got thrown into action quicker than planned because we struggled with injuries. But from then I feel like I pretty much hit the ground running. And as I said, just the whole environment of the club helped me a lot, just trying to help me settle our players liaison. Caroline, she was unbelievable. She's always of great help and assistance, and the whole stuff just made me feel very welcome. My agent, who helped me live, or who allowed me to live with him for the first week pretty much, and then like as I said, I've got loads of friends here, I've got family here, so all that helped me feeling welcome and settle fairly quickly.
In regards to Mick Beale, obviously he's made a step up in terms of going into management. When you worked with him previously, was the assistant manager of Rangers. What's the difference? Have you seen any sort of difference in him?
I've been asked this question. It's hard to tell because even back at Rangers, he was the assistant, but he would still be very much involved. So for me, the main thing is that I call him, I have to get used to calling him Gaffer. And yeah, I think it's just that he has much more responsibility now. So now he's that number one guy there, the main man in charge. But just in terms of his training and everything, it feels a bit like I've lived it before, even in terms of the meeting. But he said that to me. He said, Leon, this must feel like like being up in Glasgow or all over again, like deja vu, exactly, because you have seen all of this before. But and I said to Mick, I can't lie, I missed it. I miss it, because he has a way of, like, the way he does his meetings, his training sessions, everything is really enjoyable. It's just like quick, sharp, right intensity, and just his talk, the way he gives you confidence, is just something that I always really enjoyed. And yeah, so it's not too much of a difference really, maybe apart from just the perception.
Yeah, because obviously we're gonna divulge into the season and stuff, but recently there was that whole noise regarding Wolves approaching QPR to speak to Mick about potentially taking the job opportunity. So how was that as players to, like, get Mick's confirmation that, boys, I'm with you, I'm here to stay, I'm not going to Wolves?
I think that was big for everybody, because you heard rumours going around. I'm thinking, was there even another team at the time that he was linked to? Potentially. Probably there will be more noise about him, because there's been noise before. I think I heard rumours that even people talk about him becoming the next England national team manager and stuff like that. So, which is just a great testimonial for him and the work he does, I think. But ultimately, I think everybody knows what it would mean for any manager to go from the Championship to the Premier League, and I think it's a huge proof of, or it shows how big his character is, you know, and his dedication to turn that down and say, look, I stay here at QPR where nothing is guaranteed really. So I felt there was something huge he's done there for the club and also for us players, because you could feel we were a bit nervous, or the majority of players, like, is he going?
Okay, in the changing room.
So we were making jokes, some of the players. So I was like, hey, ask your, not me, I'm not going to name names, but some players were mentioning to others, like, hey, ask your dad if he's staying or if he's leaving. Things like that, you know. Exactly. So that was funny, but at the same time, you could tell, like, even we played Cardiff on the night and players were asking, like, look, what's going on? So some of the senior players, I think Albert Adoma, he mentioned at one point, look, boys, I know it's a lot of distraction and noise going around at the moment, but let's just focus on the game, make sure we do our job, and after, whatever's happening is going to happen. And then even the day after, we obviously had a stellar performance against Cardiff at home. Came in the next morning, the dressing room banter goes on, like, is he here yet? Nah, he's on the, I don't know, whatever M way he's on, up to Birmingham and stuff. So everybody was like a bit shook. Is he actually in? Is he not in? Blah blah blah. And then when he told us that he's going nowhere, and
so how did he put that to bed? Like, how did he nip the situation in the bud?
So we had a meeting. I think it was a Thursday. We had a meeting to prepare for the game again against Wigan, and he just said, like, look, I'm not even sure if I'm at liberty to say, but he pretty much told us, look, I'm dedicated to this. I'm really enjoying working with you boys, and I'm not going anywhere. And that was that. And you could just tell, like, with the boys, there was quite a big buzz, you know. And then from there, we just carried on.
It's normal, yeah.
Moving on, in terms of the season so far, how would you analyse the season? Because a few weeks ago you guys were actually the table toppers, and obviously results have kind of not been the best currently. So how would you analyse the season so far?
Like you said before, I mean, I came in the middle of, I think they had played like 5-6 games already at that point, or maybe even more. So I haven't been there from the start, but I think everybody would have agreed to be in the position that we're in now, within touching distance of the playoff spot just before the season. Obviously, from the time they started in pre-season to the time I joined, and up until now, there's been some process going on. As I said, I've only been part of it, but obviously it's a bit sour, you know. It's a bit, if you look at the past 5 games, I think you feel like, or we feel like, we've let ourselves down, which shows you that on one hand that we have been doing really well, but on the other hand, there's still work to do. And I think for us it's about, because I feel like we built momentum, and maybe we were mistaking that for having real deep confidence, where we know that even if things don't go our way for a certain period in the games, we will still make it out, because that happened to us. But as I said, we built momentum, and in order to keep that momentum going and build like a deep confidence in what we're doing, we have to show more consistency. And I think that's just something that we still need to learn as a group. We played in not many different formations, but like just on my position as centre half, we had like 4 different pairings. I think there's been loads of changes around the names in the team. So to come out still in that position where we are, I think is still a great achievement that you cannot you cannot mistake that for being poor or anything. Yes, we can do better. We know we should be in a better position, because I think we let ourselves down on set plays massively. So if you just take that away, probably we are a few points better off, and then everybody would be like, oh my god, QPR is flying still, you know. So it's about perspective, and I think Mick helps a great deal with that as well. He always puts our minds right without being soft on us, but he gives us the right idea about how to look at things. And as I said, there's work to do. It's a progress. It's not decided now. It's decided in May, eventually. So we need to just make sure that we're ready to go again. Burnley, that will be a first game. I think so far that's the best team in the league.
Yeah.
They're not on top for no reason, and you can see that they are really like they've built something there, you know. And maybe that's a team. If you talk about building something like something solid, maybe even a team to look at. Without looking down on yourself or belittling yourself. But I think so far it's been very enjoyable. Just before the break, we wish it would have been different, but there's still a lot of time and there's still a lot of games to be played.
And to be fair, when you look at the core of your squad, a lot of young players
as well.
Ilias Chair, Chris Willock, Tyler Roberts, Jimmy Dunn at centre back. So when there's young players, you're going to get that inconsistency. So I think this break comes at a right time. Obviously 4 defeats and 5, you can recalibrate, reset, then go again.
Get some injured players back as well.
And it's been emotionally draining with all the rumours about Mick and stuff like that. So it just kills that situation. So when you get back, you can just focus on football.
Yeah, I think we really dealt with that well. Even what you just said, like that side of it with the whole rumours about certain personas. So as I said, I think the group is really strong. We can build on top of that, but I think we can be quite proud of what we've achieved so far. But then at the same time, we always need to be aware that so far we didn't really achieve something monumental. You know, we put ourselves in a good position, but let's not get carried away. And I think that we just have to reset the mentality in that sense a little bit, and then make sure that we keep on going hard and work hard and try to even demand a bit more of ourselves at times in order to not let ourselves down.
Talk to us about your departure from Rangers.
What do you want to know?
Because like it's a big sort of elephant in the room. When you left Rangers, there was a post on the Instagram, thank you to the club, everyone. It was all amicable. There were players that came out, Alfredo Morelos saying, my big brother's gone. Fans, I sent you the messages, you know, from loads of fans saying, oh, Liam, why has he left? Oh my God, we can do with him now. This is a mess, joke of a decision. So when there's that sort of anarchy and that sort of feeling around the departure, it sends shockwaves. Normally you see things coming and say, okay, I expected him to go. But with your one, it was unexpected. So why did you leave Rangers?
So first of all, just out of respect for QPR, probably I do have to say that I'm extremely happy to be here. But obviously, for me, it was quite a sad departure from Rangers because I love their club. I really got infected with their blue fever, and that will be for life. So It's not that I'm regretting to be at QPR now, but obviously that was for me even quite, you could say it's been a heartbreak, because I did not leave Rangers, so it's more like I got released. That's, I think, the fair way to put it, or of putting it. And I did not really expect it. I mean, at one point down the line, then I got prepared, but still I did not expect that.
So when you say you got released, were there contract offers at least to say, Leon, we want you to stay?
I've never received an offer, no.
No contract offer?
We were talking, but I've never received an offer, no.
So Leon, what's the difference between talks and an offer? Because a lot of the time, sometimes we'll hear talks and we'll think, oh, that's an offer. So what's the difference? Was it just conversations?
It was just
meetings?
conversations, really, yeah. So I think I asked my agent around March or something what's going on, because obviously my contract's coming to an end. I don't have to tell you I want to stay. I love that club. I feel like I found my football home there. That's what one of the masseuses always said, Disco. He always said, Leon, you found home here in football. You found home. And that, but that hit home with me because I've never thought about it like that. And I was like, you know what, Disco? You're right. But yeah, I asked him, and then he said, yeah, we're gonna talk to them and see what they're saying. So there's been a few players at the time, older, whose contracts came to an end, and it was just kind of, we've been in that really successful but busy phase of playing 2 semi-finals, one against Celtic, another against Leipzig in the Europa League. So it was just like they're going to have a meeting, and after that there's going to be made an imminent decision, and it was just dragging on. And they were talking about some modalities of the contract, how they think, what they think it can look like. So it was pretty much about agreeing a base or foundation of how we're going to carry on from there. And to me it felt just like a drag, because at the end of the day, it was a bit of like, we sent an offer actually then, I think a few days before the contract ended. Didn't hear back from them, and then on the 31st of May, that's when the contracts in Scotland end, I got a call. I was in Germany at the time, in Berlin, from my agent. He said no, they're not going to do it. And it's from what I've been told, it's been a bit of, the manager was not too sure about it, and that that the sporting director tried to convince him,
Russ Wilson,
and then they had him on board, but then on the other, it was like a constant back and forth. So at one point I actually thought, okay, now it's gonna go quite quick, because they told me, we want to keep you, and we're gonna find a solution, blah blah blah, blah. And then at the final day, actually, they then said no, can't really come to a conclusion. And then I think it's better that if there's not a 100% decision, if it's not really clear, that it's probably just better just for the work relationship, that then we're just going to let things end the way they are now. So at that time, obviously, my agent told me, listen, Leon, I think you've done everything and more in order to justify that, to get another year. But if it hasn't happened by now, in my experience, I don't think it will happen. So he told me that probably 2 weeks, 3 weeks prior to them telling me their decision. But yeah, it was long, because we played all these games in between. Then in hindsight, looking back, the last interview I actually gave after we won the Scottish Cup final almost feels a bit like a goodbye message, because they asked me about my contract situation, and I told the reporters that everybody who knows a bit about me knows that I fell in love with the club, and that means everything to me. So it was a tough one to take, really. And then even still during the summer,
was there a chance of you actually going back? Because we saw you at Ibrox for a Champions League game against Union. The cameras panned on you. And I try and work out this situation. I try and work out this situation in my head because obviously there was the emergence of Calvin Bassey, so he started to play centre back. Then obviously he had left, so that leaves a space. So was there talks about a potential? Obviously you've left, but going back.
I think the whole point was, or their minds were a bit about the whole centre half situation anyway, because there's been Philip Elano was there, Conor Goldson at the time. Talk of the town was actually that he's going to leave. Then he signed a new deal. I think probably they've been waiting a bit on what's going to happen with him. But then Kelvin, nobody knew at the time when we were talking, is he going to stay, is he going to leave? But no, I don't think actually that there was a chance. I was hoping for it, I think. But at the same time, I think the manager at that point, well, beforehand actually, had made up his mind about my persona. So I don't think there was a chance. I stayed in Glasgow until the end of August. So my tenancy ended on the 1st of September. And I can't lie, even at home, me and my missus, we were always like, yeah, maybe there's a chance. We were hoping for it. And then especially seeing that they did struggle in my position with injuries and stuff, I was like, okay, maybe. And obviously I enjoyed still being there, but at the same time it didn't help, because whenever I ran into supporters on the streets or wherever, sometimes they just knock on your car's window because they look through and see you.
Yeah.
Like,
so you haven't got tints.
Oh, what you know? I did, but probably not tinted enough. And you also don't want to get in trouble with the law. So no, but they just, what's happening, big man? You're staying? You're signing back up? No, why did you leave? So that stuff, I kept getting DMs and tags on Twitter everywhere.
Even us. Hundreds of messages.
Even now, until this day, like I posted something about late Jimmy Bell, and then they
rest in peace,
they say, we miss you back at Ibrox, wish you were still here. So having that during the summer, just working on my own, didn't really help. As much as it was like a great testimonial for my services for the club and appreciation as well, but that made it really, really tough. And all this time I was like, maybe there's a little chance, but I'd never been in touch then after. I met Ross Wilson once again after, because he allowed me to keep myself fit and use their facilities. Only done it twice though, because it wouldn't have felt right to be around the boys. It was just but that was that whole chapter pretty much. It was tough, really, really tough. I think you could tell from the message I wrote on Instagram or my socials that was really close to my heart, the whole thing. And that game that you mentioned, I was still in Glasgow. I just wanted to support. I wanted to be in the stadium, and I was crossing my fingers that they make it to Champions League, which they obviously did. It's a bit sad I never made it to one of those games, because we've played ourselves. And I would have loved to be in the stands of Ibrox in a European night in the Champions League, even more so on the pitch, obviously, because I've never played Champions League. But that was something I did not get to experience. But that's pretty much it.
So you mentioned something about the manager clearly wasn't 100%. What was your relationship like with Giovanni Van Bronckhorst? Because before he came to the club, from September to November, you started 11 games in a row for Rangers. Then after he came in, there was a slight decline in obviously you playing. So what was your relationship like with him?
It was good actually. Like nothing bad, nothing like that. I mean, the first game, he wasn't in charge, but he was announced manager already. I came back from the national team. We played against Hibs in another cup semi-final.
3-1. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I came off injured. So that's the time where then Kelvin started playing his games and as centre half. And I just took some time to get back. So that was pretty much the reason why then I haven't played for a long period, obviously. And then I think they had formed quite a solid partnership there. But I think it was they tried to manage me a little bit. Maybe there were some concerns about my fitness or my the injury or something, but there was nothing I can tell you Not because I don't want to, because I wouldn't know what to. Like, there's nothing where I felt the relationship was sour or anything. It was pretty normal. He's quite a sneaker fan, I think, just like me. So we even had a common base there. So he would come in with some hot kicks sometimes. Definitely up there. So no, there was nothing crazy. But it was nothing actually. So can't really tell you. As I said, I'm until this day, I wouldn't say I'm completely in the dark, but I never got presented a 100% or like a reason where I was like, right, okay, why?
So you're still in doubt now as to why you've left Rangers?
A little bit, maybe. I mean, I do have a bit of an answer, which I said before, like maybe there was an uncertainty if they're 100% behind it, and that then therefore they said in their experience it's better to make a cut than having something where they're not 100% behind it. So in that sense I do get it, but in terms of performances or whatsoever, there was nothing said to me. The opposite actually. So I was being told that when I stepped in, even after my injury and not maybe being on 100% yet, I've done always really well, which is not easy. So yeah, I heard a lot of reasons why I should have stayed, not too many why I didn't.
Last one from me on Rangers. So like, what are your overall feelings towards the club as we sit here today? Because for me it seems like there's like a big juxtaposition. You love the club, but you've almost left in heartbreaking fashion, should I say. And it sounds horrible to hear how you left the club. So what's your overarching feeling towards the club now? It's
been the best time of my career so far. So as I said, I'm not gonna talk badly about anyone there because I enjoyed great success with the club. I love the club to bits. The supporters have always shown me mad love. There's always a few, you know, that probably point fingers and whatsoever, but like just in general, the love and appreciation I've been receiving. My teammates, it was unbelievable. The times we had, the dressing room, but everything was just top. So yeah, these are decisions sometimes that are being made in football. That's not me saying I'm happy with it, but you have to respect it, and I accepted it. But there's no benefit in me carrying any sort of hatred or whatsoever, because decisions have to be made at one point. It was to my disadvantage in a certain, if you want to say it like that. But overall, like I said, it's the blue fever. It caught me 100%. I'm still watching the games now. Maybe I'm a bit more on the side of supporters at the moment with cursing in front of the TV.
It's not going too well.
And not being happy, but at the same time, I mean, I've been there. I know most of the lads and I know their dedication and everything. So it's heartbreaking to see that they're struggling at the moment a little bit. But no, there's no bad blood or anything like that, because the time for me at that club has been too special. The appreciation I still get until today is still too big for me as to kind of put shade on the time in any sort of way, because it would take away so much of happiness and joy that I've experienced wearing the shirt, being part of that club. I wouldn't want to diminish that, because I feel like maybe I've been hard done by or not been dealt with in the way I should have been dealt with.
So like, I've got quite a few points on Rangers, because I want to talk about obviously your last season there, which ended in a Europa League final. I want to talk about being man of the match in the Old Firm derby that you won 1-0. I want to talk about the current situation of Rangers now. So if we can just maybe talk about when you were man of the match against Celtic. That performance, man, that was heroic. Because Kyogo, like before the game, everyone was saying, this guy, best player in the league, how do you stop him? And what you done to him that game was, had everything a Rangers fan would want. Heart, passion, playing for the shirt, that blue blood. So like, just talk to us about that performance.
It's more interesting to talk about what happened before, probably, because I I remember I think we came back from Alashkert something to qualify for the Europa League, and Nathan Patterson, he had played games, but I think on one of the trips before with the national team, because there were still all these silly COVID rules with like I don't know what. And I'm not gonna lie, we at that point probably thought somebody's trying to do us dirty, you know, because I think Taff was out with COVID, and Nathan was fine. He was with the team and played, and all of a sudden he was deemed close contact. 10 days after he turboed or something, we were like, "What's going on here?" And I remember it was a Thursday or a Friday. We've been in the indoor hall that they have, and I think at that point we had to sit there because dressing room would have been too close for everyone. So Conor Goldson came to me. He said, "My brother, I need you. I need you on my right side." So what do you mean? You got me anyway. No, I got you, bro. Always when we play. He's like, "No, I need you." And he gave me that look with a little smirk. I was like, "Well, what are you talking about?" And he's like, "Need you, bro. You need to get them long legs running right fullback." I was like, "Oh my, what do you, no, Nath is there." Because I did not fancy it. I can't lie. I used to play there and I enjoyed it, but obviously as you grow older, I prefer centre back. It's chill, more calm. I don't mind running, but it's just especially the way we play, or we played there, and the fullbacks are supposed to play. So boy, I'm not ready for the running. However, he said, "Bro, whatever you need to do, get yourself ready." And I was like, "Oh my god." Obviously, I knew about Kyogo as well. I'm not going to say I was scared, but I know to play against these type of players, it's not easy. Not having played right fullback for a long time consistently. Yeah, because when I used to play against Ribery, I was a right fullback at the time. So
name drop there, Ribery.
Yeah, and
legends.
I'm always getting asked who was my toughest opponent. It would probably be him, but I enjoy playing against him because could mention others like Ibrahima Traoré used to play for Gladbach at the time. He was tough as well. Other Bayern players. Coleman, Robin, I played against these, and I played against other wingers as well. Marco Reus, Aubameyang when he was at Dortmund. Like it was, but I had my feet set for that. So at that point, I didn't feel like my feet are ready, you know. But, and I know like Japanese players I play with a few. They're very busy. They're lively. They run hard all game. Their work ethic is unbelievable. So I did have a lot of respect for that guy. And I was just like, right, let's. As you said, like hard, passion, whatever. That's just what I try to bring to every game. That's just me. I'm a bit of a fighter, warrior, probably. So I just try to make sure that I shut that side down. So yeah, had to get myself ready. I remember Steven Gerrard texted me just before the message. He said, "Just be yourself. You've played there before, European level, international level, Bundesliga. You played against so many." Big players on that position. You can do it. You are bringing your aggressiveness, all that, and you'll have a good game. And ended up with the man of the match trophy. Can't lie. Remember the first time he dribbled at me, he had pretty much almost done me, but I just slide tackled into him. And that's what got the crowd going as well. And from then on, I just tried to dig in as hard as possible. Mick was actually in charge of that game. Because the gaffer was out with COVID as well. We had quite a few players missing with COVID. Robbie McRory was in goal, who had an unbelievable game himself. But yeah, it's unbelievable. And I remember Scotty Arfield coming to me after the match and said, "Bro, that game, you have no idea what it means. You've been here a year now, but man of the match in an old firm, they will never forget that. Never ever." And I didn't realize at the time. I was just trying to catch my breath. So I was blowing. And yeah, that was that really enjoyable game. Phil Helander came up with a big header, 1-0 win at home. Yeah, it was very, very, very enjoyable. I still look back at that day with a lot of joy,
fun memories,
pride as well. That was a big day.
So when Steven Gerrard left the club in November, how did the boys sort of take the message, or how did he communicate that with you? Because him leaving was a very, very quick sort of decision. So it's like that.
I was during an international break, I think. And there were talks about it in the group chat and stuff, but we were not all together. So I couldn't really tell you too much. I just know I was with the national team. I think Joe was there for sure. I think Calvin was there as well. And we were just like, nah, he's gone. We couldn't believe it. Because we were like, nah, he's not going to leave. We're doing too well, blah, blah, blah. We were like, at that point, I don't know. We were
4 points?
6 points clear, I'm not sure. Doing well in Europe as well. So, it's like, no. What's going to happen? What's going to happen? So, it was weird. And I can imagine all of us were a bit heartbroken as well, because even with him, everybody, whether that was Mick Beale, TC,
Gary
Tom Kosher, Gary Macker, Scotty, Jordan, like we had built a relation with all of them, and I was there only for a year and a bit. There were players in that dressing room that have worked with him for 3.5 years almost, so they had built a bond, so that couldn't have been easy. Because for me at the time I was like, can't believe he left us, So yeah, but then obviously in football you always have to carry on, and I think everybody could understand, because everybody knew he eventually wanted to go to the Premier League, and I think that was a great chance. I think he actually had turned down a few offers at that point already. I think it would have.
Oh, so did he tell you guys in the dressing room?
No, but I think it's just some rumors you heard before, because he was linked to other teams, and I think at that point he just thought, you know what, it's his chance, and why shouldn't he take it? I think he's done well with us. I think nobody actually had hard feelings or anything. It was just sad for us personally, or as a team and as for the club. But for him personally, I think it was the right decision at the time, and I was rooting for him all the time, for him and his stuff, because as I said, for me, I think I mentioned it last year. For me, he's done so much by bringing me to Rangers, by giving me that platform, boosting my confidence, lifting me up, and we became invincibles together. So that I think will forever connect that group. But it was weird. Because you come back and it's just like he's not there anymore. Yeah. Because there was a certain energy they brought, and it was just gone, and everybody fed off of that in a certain way. So. Yeah.
So in terms of obviously Steven Gerrard, he went to Aston Villa, but that journey's ended now. Yeah. Because obviously we know he was sacked by the club. So like when you look at that situation, obviously you've been a player in his dressing room, and there was loads of things coming out. I thought a bit disrespectful, like it was all Mick Beale, Steve Gerrard got found out at the top level, kind of thing. Being a sort of lieutenant under his stewardship, how would you sort of describe his management?
I think he's an amazing man manager. That was my experience, and I think him and Mick were just a great team. Obviously Mick was involved in loads of the tactical parts, but I think they've just done amazing teamwork together. So just from the point of looking at our success that we had together, it would be disrespectful to even discuss what people have said about that, because at the end of the day, it's a Premier League. It's not tough. I don't think they've been in a good place. He took them over for a reason, and I think it just didn't work out eventually the way everybody was hoping it to work out. And as a manager in the Premier League, I think you get less time, and there's more pressure, there's more spotlight. And potentially also I think at Rangers probably it was easier for him to call shots. In the Premier League there's loads of people involved, so
egos, even like some of the players, because you look like you had a good group. Everyone was sort of not at a certain level, but it was a good team. Whereas when you go to like the Premier League, you're dealing with players that are, you have to earn your right.
Exactly. I mean, I don't even know anyone at Villa, so I wouldn't judge on anyone there. But obviously, there's big egos, like the way they have some experience. So maybe they won't have anything the certain way. They have less tolerance whatsoever. And I think he really had the chance to build something at Rangers. He didn't get that same time to build something at Aston Villa, and I think that's just the way things go in football a lot of the time. I mean, you see football managers being sacked all the time. I think being who he is doesn't make it easier for him, because the focus will always be higher than with other managers. But he's still a young manager in his career. You can't forget that, you know. And I think he's done really well, and I'm sure he will look at himself. I think he's very critical of himself. He will look at things that he could have done better, and he will go again. And I'm pretty sure we will see him in the Premier League again.
Definitely, because he's still, as you mentioned, very young. Yeah. And I think even with the Mick Beale argument, Mick Beale is someone that's coached for over 20 years. Steven Gerrard, he had a playing career. So he's still just learning his trade. So even if Mick Beale is a better coach than him, you expect it when you talk about dedicated time to a craft.
But that's the thing, like, people always are so quick to judge. They hardly ever look at the facade or behind the facade, you know. You only see the results at the end of the day. Most of the people only see what's going on the pitch for 90 odd minutes, you know. You don't see the day-to-day work, the work they put in behind the scenes, in his office and whatsoever. So you don't know the dynamics between players that he has to manage, the dynamics between him and players, the dynamics between him and maybe the board or whatsoever. Like, you know, every manager has wishes for players, has wishes for this, new facilities, this and that. So there's so many things involved that most people, at first at least, don't really think about. And I think if you are being a bit more considerate, then maybe managers in general would maybe get a little bit more time, you know, to work things out. And then you can still make a fair judgment call rather than just on the surface.
Yeah, because towards the end of his time, there was a game against Fulham. Again, I'm a big Steven Gerrard fan, so I'm interested. I'm a Liverpool fan, so like the game against Fulham when he was getting abused by the crowd, and I'm thinking, this is big old Stevie G. This is the guy that saved Liverpool, and like there's no respect, man. But
that's the thing, because everybody has an opinion that's fair, but I think social media being one of the problems in this is that the way you can voice it without, like, you can get away with anything, and the level, like, people are not really scared to say things anymore, and it's just taken away so much, so they just disregard that, you know. And then at the end of the day they might, it's still Steven. If they would probably, I don't know, 10 days later, after they chanted and abused him, they watch some of the highlights of him or something, like, what a player he was, and then they're full of respect again. And for those moments, like, a lot of the time people are not really able to just channel their emotions and just like take a step back and be like, you know what, we still have to have respect for the man. He might not work well for our club, it might not work out, but, you know, give him his flowers. It's fine. It didn't work out, he gets sacked, another one comes, fair enough. But all this abuse, but I mean, that's not just for men, that's for players. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about it with players before in your podcast, if it's whether that's racial abuse or any other sort of discrimination. It's just the fear of people actually going over a certain limit, you know, just crossing certain lines is just so low, and that's a problem, I think, in general in society.
I want to quickly talk about the rest of last season, because obviously it ended in that European run when you went to Seville, when you played against Frankfurt. I mean, that run was crazy, beating Dortmund, beating Leipzig. Like, I mean, what were the players saying to you, the German players, when you came up against Leipzig and Dortmund? They must have been saying,
not much, to be fair, because I wasn't playing too much of those games, unfortunately, because the Dortmund games, I remember I was praying that we draw Dortmund, because I wanted to play against Haaland so bad, man.
I mean,
at the end, he didn't play, so in that sense I was like, okay,
fair enough.
I'm not gonna lie, probably the fact that he didn't play in the return leg might have helped us, you have to be honest. But I just wanted to get the chance to play against the striker that possibly might be the best striker within the next decade or something, you know. So, and just see what it is, because I have friends that still play in the Bundesliga, and I ask them, what is he like, man? Is he that hard to beat? And then one said, bro, when he gets going, it's tough, but if you keep them at bay as a team, you can manage it, you know.
Because we've seen this season some defenders literally falling on the floor when he comes in contact with them, just absolutely.
Listen, but I can show you some players from the Nigerian national team squad that do that as well, you know, and you wouldn't expect it. But it's just, no, but he's phenomenal. You can't lie. And I just wanted to be able to compete against one of the best in the world, you know. So obviously missed out on that. I played the second leg against Dortmund, came on at halftime, I think. And then, I mean, there's another player he's not so bad as Jude Bellingham.
Ooh,
he is unbelievable, man. I said to him actually after the game, look, for you it's frustrating now and everything, but you are unbelievable. Just keep doing your thing. I'm gonna watch you as a fan because it's beautiful to watch you. But he's unreal. The way he takes responsibility, that was crazy.
Does it remind you of Steven Gerrard? A bit.
That's what people say, you know, but at a young age, you know, taking that much responsibility, I wouldn't be able to make a judgment call because I haven't watched too many games back then because I couldn't back home in Germany. But from what I've been hearing, they must be pretty similar in that sense of leadership skills. Even I was shook, like some things he threw about at players older than him, much older.
Yeah, there was something about Schluss. I think he said something to him during the game. I saw that.
That was a bit off limits probably. But then again, in the game, you know, it happens. You just emotional. You want to win. He's a winner, you can tell, and that happens. As long as afterwards they shake hands and stuff. But it's not even that. Even the way I like experienced, like senior players, accomplished players, more accomplished than him.
Yeah.
Obviously he's 19. They are what, 30, 31, 32, whatever. And I was like, wow. But it was nice to see. But just to come back to your question, it's just there was not really much because the manager at the time, he had like long meetings, very detailed meetings, so the boys knew everything they needed to know. I was more excited to be able to go back home to Germany.
Okay, what, did you sneak a day off?
No, I couldn't. But I only went to Leipzig because Dortmund, the first leg I was still injured or recovering. But I was in Leipzig, you know, get some good old German bread again and stuff like that. And my family actually came over for the game and some friends from school, so that was pretty nice because I hadn't been in Germany for quite some time at that moment. So yeah, that was brilliant.
So like, yeah,
just knocking them out then as well was just going all the way to the final. That was unreal. That's probably the only thing where I was mad, like proper angry at the manager, because I felt, in terms of having played German oppositions, not playing me in that final against Frankfurt, not even as a sub, that was really making me, that was disappointing and really made me angry. Because
not making subs bench, you didn't.
No, I was there, but not even coming on as a sub, you know, for extra time whatsoever. Picked another player at the time for my position. I could not believe it. At the moment, I just thought, you know what, swallow your pride. You need to push the team from the bench as good as you can. But after that, I was fuming because I had played against Frankfurt loads. For me, it was even a bit personal because I used to play for Mainz and their rivals. So I it would have been very personal to me to hurt them. And one of my best friends, him as well, I just to rub it in his face.
So he plays for Frankfurt?
No, he's a Frankfurt supporter. He's from Mainz, but he's a Frankfurt supporter. Just to rub it in his face. I mean, if we would have won, I would have rubbed that in his face.
Turned up at his doorstep
for a lifetime, bro. For a lifetime. But yeah, obviously then he actually was there. And then saw me there as well. It was a tough moment. But yeah.
Yeah, so in terms of, obviously, like, we know what happened in the final, you didn't get the win, and obviously players left. Obviously Joe Aribo's gone to Southampton, Calvin Bassey's gone to Ajax, and you've obviously left as well. This season we've sort of seen a different Rangers. They brought in Ben Davis from Liverpool, they brought in Suter, the defender, so there's a new look, and obviously the fans are in uproar. They're saying this isn't the Rangers that we've had from last season. We've seen in Europe there's been some bad results. You know, 7-1 at home to Liverpool.
I think conceded the most goals in group stage history to my knowledge,
Yeah, so like fans are really, like, at this moment in time, Giovanni Van Bronckhorst, he's under some pressure. There's talk about meetings being taking place over this World Cup period, whether to decide whether he's going to continue or not. So as a fan, and knowing the boys in the dressing room, how do you view this season?
Let's say it's probably not easy right now for them, you know, for none of them there. It's not easy for supporters because the other side of town will just rub it into their faces like they always do, and they have no filter. And yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's really, I can only imagine like that the atmosphere cannot be great. The mood overall in camp or in the dressing room cannot be great, and still they have to dust themselves off, you know. But it's just like you get one blow after another, then you dust yourself off, you have like a moment where things look good again, and then you get another one in Champions League. It's tough. It's not easy. And then obviously with the bad run they had and results not going their way even in the league now, I think it was always going to come to that point. We just mentioned Gerrard. It was always going to, because there's loads of pressure in at Rangers as well.
If you don't win for 2 games, it's a crisis.
Especially if you then, especially in the league domestically, you need to perform. And I think that probably is the reason why then there's talks about the club discussing his future. But this was always going to happen. I think he's very well aware of that. Everybody knows the dynamics of football, so it's nothing that comes as a surprise.
Yeah.
I think it's just important mainly for the team that they just use this break to recharge. They have had tough luck with injuries as well. So there's a few contributing factors to things not really going their way. But then at the same time, this won't be allowed as an excuse, because it's Rangers and you still need to perform to a certain level. So yeah, it's difficult times at the moment, really. It's, as I said, hard to watch, but at the same time I've been in the dressing room, so I feel for the boys, because I know they all do their best. I know they're in the gym every day, they do their training, they go hard in training and everything, but it's just, we spoke about confidence before, and for them at the moment it's about regaining that, and to regain that they have to build momentum and create momentum. Therefore it might not be bad that they have this break now, get a few players back in, a few bodies back in, and then come back with a bang after the World Cup break. That's what's needed, I think, to turn the climate around the club around, you know, and get everybody on your back again, because once the supporters see that spark, you know, and that passion, they will be backing you. And I think that's just something where maybe there's a bit doubt at the moment.
So what do you make of like the Champions League run? Because it's not really been competitive. Like, I think last season everyone probably would say man for man, if you look at Leipzig and Dortmund squad, maybe man for man they're better than Rangers, but you were so good at sort of dragging them down to your level, if that doesn't sound too disrespectful. Whereas in this Champions League run, it's like, it's almost like men against boys. There's not that, you know, Rangers were basically like the whipping boys, and that's very, very painful for the fans.
Obviously, especially because they haven't been in the Champions League for long. But it's hard to say, because yeah, there's the argument about money that definitely should be weighed in, yes. But then at the same time, I think if you look at it from a supporter's point of view, is, do you just let this happen to yourself? Do you go down with a fight? And I would never say the boys didn't fight, because as a player, that's it's not my place to say that. And I know them. They wouldn't have gone down with a fight. But sometimes it is hard as a player, if you just get these beatings, and if you're low in confidence, to just pick yourself back up, and just make sure that you are the best version of yourself. It can be really tough, and not all performances have been bad, but then at the end of the day, on that level, you just get punished, and it can be demoralizing. It can be cruel, you know. So any little mistake can just end up in the back of your net, and I think unfortunately that's what happened. And this is something, it's a tough experience, but the question then is, how do you pick yourself up from it, and how do you learn from it? I think that's the main thing or how you have to approach it, because it's done. It is done. You have that terrible historical record and everything, yes, but dust yourself off, go again, make sure it doesn't happen like this again, and most importantly, make sure you get into Champions League again. That should be the focus, and to get there, you need to get the league right first. And then you can build on that.
Last one from me on Rangers, Alfredo Morelos, your good friend. There's a lot of rumours around him at the moment, because he's in the last 12 months of his contract. during his time at Rangers, there's been criticism, people sort of saying he doesn't know how to manage himself. This season, he's got like 3 goals in 12 games. Rangers signed a new striker, Kolak, who's probably seen as the first choice. How important do you think it is that Rangers keep him?
I think Buff is a monumental figure there. It's just he's loved by the fans, and certainly keeping him on, signing him on, giving him a new deal would be a big sign for the club as well to go forward. Being able to keep one of their key players over the last few years, but I think for him he's probably still not up and running 100% because he came back from a big injury, and you always say like you need the same sort of time to get back up to speed. Obviously with Colak being in there now, it doesn't make it easier because he's just scoring goals for fun. I think he's the top scorer in the league at the moment, so that means Buff is not getting as much game time as he used to, which obviously him personally doesn't help too much,
of course.
But from what I've seen, definitely I've seen him work harder than ever before, doing extras even outside of the training ground and stuff. But I think in just what he gives the team, even in terms of a link-up player, I think it would be massive to keep him on board.
How is he as an individual? Because again, there's a media side of him, like ill-disciplined, red cards, doesn't know how to manage himself, as I said. But you know him as a friend. He sees you as like a big brother. So what's the side to El Buff that you see?
He's special, funny. I mean, yeah, he's different, yeah, and maybe he's not your how you call that? He's not your perfect example, maybe for everything, but I think he's got a big heart. He's got a good heart, and you know he'll fight for you. You know, it's just you have to know how to handle him. And obviously, he's coming from Colombia. He's coming from a different place than most of us. He's coming from a different environment, has seen different things, so that will always shape his character. He might not put as much importance onto certain things the way we do. That does mean he doesn't take it seriously, though. And I think you need to give him a bit of space in order for him to be at his best. Doesn't mean that sometimes you don't have to discipline him, because if there's all these talks and rumors about discipline and this and that, then probably there's some truth to it to a certain extent. But I think it's about managing it in the right way, like giving him a bit of liberty without letting him turn into a loose cannon. And then I think everybody has seen what he can give you.
Yeah, because some managers might say, you know what, this is not worth the hassle. Like maybe like a Steven Gerrard, because he had experience, obviously, with Luis Suarez, being around different types of individuals. Whereas other managers might say, no, all the group, you must treat everyone the same. So we're going to cast you aside. You're late. That's it. You're on the bench kind of thing. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I said. It's like sometimes it's just about the man management, not just from the manager, also from the group. And I think if Buff is at his best, he gives you so much, and then you're willing to maybe accept a bit more. But at the same time, you cannot let it get it out of hand.
Of course.
No, true.
Yeah, you've mentioned the World Cup and international football quite a few times during this whole interview.
You're still heartbroken, aren't you?
Oh, we're gonna get onto that.
So
we've got Ghanaian friends, and we can't even talk to them.
I'm not gonna lie, Leon. Look, I speak for myself and myself only. I was embarrassed after it. Like,
embarrassed?
Yeah, because comments everywhere, Nigeria not going to the World Cup. That performance was shocking. I'm in a group chat with like 10 of us, we're all Nigerian, right? And we were just like, oh, we're gonna be missing out. I saw your statement, after the game. What happened? What's gone wrong? Let's be honest, this is a travesty. What is it? Sorry, Leon. What's gone wrong?
What's gone wrong? I think it's the first leg. We did not score. That would have changed the whole picture, probably. It's a bit funny because that season, the away goal rule got scrapped everywhere. I don't know why they didn't do it in Africa. I have no clue. Until this day, I don't understand.
Maybe the person that made the rules was a Ghanaian.
Listen, I have no idea. No, I mean they would have suffered from it as well if they would. But it was a weird one. That's something I did not understand. It's gone everywhere, just not in Africa. Well, however, had to deal with it. And then we did go to Ghana to play that first leg, And yeah, it was a tough game. You know, there was this whole fuss about them changing the stadium last minute into a stadium where they've never lost, and they say whether Juju may or may not have been involved, also whatever. And it was tough for us, that game, can't lie. It was really, really tough, and we ended up playing 0-0. I just remember we had a meeting the 1 or 2 days after, and one of the staff said, we're 70% through. And I thought to myself, that can't be right. We played a goalless draw away from home. If that is helpful to anyone, then there's Ghana. So I was like, well, whatever. And we just said, look, we have to just pour our hearts out for that game. And I can't lie, driving to the stadium on that day, I was holding back tears because I was touched by the support. I've played with great support. Like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful to any of the places we played with the national team before, or where I've played with the national team before. But Abuja that day was packed, and I've seen little boys, girls, families, elders, everybody rooting for us. The stadium was packed, and it was unreal. And I said to myself, just for them we have to make it. And obviously it was heartbreaking then when we conceded that first goal. That was a tough one to take. Came back with a penalty, but then we couldn't break them down. We had a few chances, but nothing really nothing really that forced them, you know, nothing that really got them shook or anything. So in the end, you have to say Ghana probably deserved it. You have to hold up your hands and say they deserved it, because we came hard for them. But then I think second half they changed their shape, and that was pretty much what just took a bit of the wind out of us.
Yeah, that was very, very.
It was hard.
Yeah. So yeah, we saw after the game, you went into the changing room, man by man, you offered your hand. Congrats. I think that shows what type of person you are. And what made you do that? Because most people would just be bitter. Oh my God, World Cup, we're not in Qatar. And
I was, because potentially or probably that was my last chance to be in a World Cup as well, looking at my age. I mean, never say never, but I have to be a bit realistic as well. So that was tough. But I thought to myself, you know what? It will be the first World Cup for most of them. And I remember how happy I was that day. So I just thought, you know what? Let me go over, shake hands, congratulate them. Because as I just said, I think they deserved to go. Because at the end of the day, we didn't have enough questions for them to break down and, fail. So I just thought that's the right thing to do. Because at the end of the day, it's about fair play as well. And then obviously I knew their manager, Otto Addo, from Germany. So spoke to him a bit afterwards, and Chris Hughton was there, who used to be my Brighton manager. Sami Kufa was there, Bayern legend for me, and Anthony Buffo, whom I've known as well, met him before. Could speak a bit of German with them. I was just like, listen, fair play, like your tactical change second half that killed us. But all the best going forward, because he's a young manager as well. He had just taken over the job. So it was really just to wish them well, and I told them to do Africa proud, West Africa proud, because it's in their hands now.
Because we saw after the game as well, fans ran onto the pitch, and I saw a picture of you like shielding people.
That was a good one, because I actually shifted one because I was angry.
Well, you shifted like a fan, like someone.
Because I don't think they were trying to attack me, but it was just so many people, and these things can get out of hand. I was just about to go into the tunnel, and somebody just dragged me, and I was angry. We just lost we just got eliminated, and I just turned around and just pushed them away, just pushed them back. So if you see this, sorry, but you came too close, brother.
No, I hear you, because like when I look at the failure of Nigeria, I look at that team, Victor Osimhen. For me, part of that next generation of striker. He's a top 5. You got Joe Aribo, Wolby, Ola, yourself, Truce Dekong, Ndidi. There's so much talent. It's almost like
Bassi
as well. It's like, how do we not get through? Obviously, it takes 2 to tango. There's 2 teams, but this team should be there.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, as I said, tactically, they had an impact. Second half, he made a change, and that was enough. And that we didn't have the right answers for it. We couldn't really come up with solutions, and that's why I said we really struggled then to find ways.
So when you say we, is that the players on the pitch or the coaches?
The team, as a team, everybody. Because certainly we tried. I remember Kelvin, he was almost not breaking down, but he was tired. And then I remember some players, some pundits or whatever came out saying, yeah, we shouldn't invite players that are not fit to play African football. How can you? Because he said in an interview before that he needs to get used to the heat, but I'm sorry, we played in Abuja. Most of us play in Europe. Yeah. So it doesn't matter if players are from Abuja or wherever. If you spend the majority of the year in Europe, in England, playing football, I'm sorry, you're not going to be used to that heat of 37 degrees or something. That's just nonsense. And he played his heart out. He was cramping up and everything. I remember I was tired, but you just try to keep going. You try again. We tried everything, but everything on that day was not good enough, and that's just the bitter reality that you sometimes have to accept. And I know supporters then always come, yeah, but we should do this, we should do that. Yeah, but Liverpool should beat Nottingham, and they didn't. So
I recall last time when you came on the platform, you had words for the Nigerian Football Federation. And you know, I read a lot of things online, and they say, you know, like a lot of fan opinions are saying, you know what, I'm not going to blame the players. I think the failure is more about the infrastructure and the environment for the players, because they're not given the best platform to perform out there on the pitch. Last time when you came on, you said things need to change in terms of hotels, the care. You know, if you want Osimhen to be the next world star, there needs to be a better sort of environment for him. Since the last time we spoke, has there been improvements?
I think a little bit, but then it's fair to say I missed out the last 2 camps, unfortunately, due to little injuries. So obviously we have a new manager.
Portuguese.
You can definitely see he's got different ideas, different philosophies, which are, I think, pretty good. He will need time to adapt. I think there's something that broke about him already as well. About like his situation with Nigerian football. But yeah, I think there's still a long way to go. I've just thought about it the other day. I've seen, what have I seen? I've seen on Sky News, I think it was Portugal. You see the players going to the hotel and then they enter with their cars or their bus, and you see like it's the Portuguese Football Federation. It's the Portuguese Football Federation's their facilities, their camp, just like the English team has it, like Brazil has it, and that's something I think I wish for Nigerian football. Whether I'm still gonna get to witness that as a player, but that we have one place where we camp in Nigeria. That's our base. We have our facilities there, where you have your gym, your everything, 3-4 pitches, whatever. You have your gym, you have your facilities for recovery, you have your physio rooms, your changing rooms, and all of that. That would be something for me where I think that should be one of the main targets. And then investing in grassroots football, making sure that the structure for the players that are supposed to feed the Super Eagles, that they have the facilities. And I think there's new people now in charge. I think they will try to attack it. And I think at the end of the day, you have to judge them on their results, just like you judge us players on results. But I think there's been little improvement in terms of accommodation, in terms of the travels. So that's a start, and hopefully it goes on that way.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned about this potentially being your last World Cup run. So, like, where do you stand on your international future? Are you still going to make yourself available for selection, or where do you have you made a decision?
I thought to myself, ideally thinking we're going to go to the World Cup, and then after that I'm going to call it quits, but obviously cannot peace out like that. So I'm still gonna carry on as long as I want it. That's the main condition, obviously. As I said, I missed out the last one in, when was it? September, I think. And I'm actually not supposed to sit here. I should be with Portugal. The team in Portugal. I picked up a little injury last week, Tuesday, against Huddersfield, so I had to miss out, unfortunately. But no, I'm not done yet. I still feel like I've got more to give, even in terms of experience and guidance, and maybe even just my voice, because as we know, I'm not shy to name uncomfortable truths. But it's not because I want to harm anyone, whether that's in the NFF or somewhere else, like a governor or whatsoever. But I think we have something unbelievable at hand in Nigeria. I think the talent that Nigeria produces is unreal. Mourinho said a few years ago, I think, that if African countries would have the same means as the countries in Europe, we would have an African world champion by now. And that, I think, you could probably claim that it's true. Look at all the players that are playing in the diaspora. They grow up there and that then decide to play for England or for France or whatever country, you know. There's so much talent.
Even for Nigeria, like a Saka, Tomori, Abraham.
Look at we could have an unreal team, and I think we just need to focus on keep making things more attractive, and I will try to help as much as possible. And probably even if I'm not playing for the Super Eagles anymore, I will try to somehow have an impact on Nigerian football, because it has given a lot to me. It has given me the chance actually to connect with my roots properly and to discover more about my identity, and not to mention everything in football, playing a World Cup, playing in AFCON. So yeah, there's things to give back, and hopefully that can inspire, and hopefully that can help improve things in the future.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So in terms of obviously the World Cup happening now, what's your views on it? There's been a whole sort of issue about human rights and stuff like that, and I know you're a very sensible person, so I'd love to get your view on it.
It's tricky because I do understand all the noise about the human rights. That's just shambles. And I've seen something the other day where now they're hiring fans from different countries, or people from different countries, to then and equip them with like shirts of Spain, Brazil, and all the participating countries. Where I'm like, come on, man, what is this? I think first of all, they're probably not doing their own people justice, because from what I've been hearing is that the Qataris actually are quite invested in football, you know. So give your own people the chance to express it in their own ways. But then obviously the whole other things in terms of human rights and building the stadiums, accommodations of the guest workers, and then like being homophobic and all these sorts of things, that's obviously a big problem. At the same time though, I think people shouldn't be overly critical of the players, because yes, as a whole group, they could say, as a players union sort of, they could also, we're not going to do that because we stand with those people, yes. But then again, ask yourself, how many times did you have the chance to do that, I don't know, in other problems in society with, I don't know, homophobia, racism, whatsoever, any sort of discrimination, and then did you do it or did you not do it? Because for me as a player, I'm thinking it's a privilege to play in the World Cup, and every player dreams of playing in the World Cup. Getting there is not easy. So now to call out all the players and telling them all sorts of names and whatsoever, I think it's a bit harsh, because this is something you work for your whole career. And if you are lucky enough or privileged enough to represent your national team and actually make it to the World Cup, then I think this is something that is hard to turn down, you know. So I think this is something people need to consider when they come after all the players, because they should not be blamed for what other people decide, you know, whether that has been done in the wrong or in the right way, which is very questionable, obviously. So
That makes sense. And so in terms of a winner of the World Cup, obviously you've got German roots.
I've got no clue, bro.
Okay, so who are you supporting? Germany or?
My girlfriend's Brazilian.
Oh yeah.
So
I think they're gonna win.
I might have bought the Brazilian shirt.
Okay.
No, but obviously it's always nice to watch Brazil play. Normally, I think they're a very exciting team. I think France has got an unbelievable squad. But yeah, Germany's squad is also not bad, to say the least. But at the same time, if I look at Germany, their form hasn't been great, but they're always a good team, and in turn you can never rule them out. But for me, it's tough. I think even a team like Belgium, full of good players, could be some sort of surprise team. I think they've been kind of a secret favorite in the last Euros. So let's see how good they will do. Netherlands always, but I think I'm Spain as well. Can't forget them. But I think first two teams that come to my mind are probably Brazil and France.
Okay, yeah. A lot of people are saying Brazil or Argentina because of the quality and the heat.
True, can't forget them, yeah.
Because of the heat is going to favour them and stuff like that. So, last one from me before I know we want to wrap up. So, what does the future entail? Obviously, you've got this season with QPR, but even going forward, because as I say, when I speak to you, you're very multi-dimensional. Like the way you think, you've definitely got, after you finish your career, which is hopefully in a few more years' time, like you should be sort of like a governor or making rules and like
maybe going to punditry.
Yeah, punditry. You've got like you're unique, you're different.
I think punditry or TV could be something that interests me. I did have a few requests already in the past. Back in Germany, I've had one actually the other day or the other week here to do something in England. So that's definitely something that I would enjoy doing. I can't tell. For now, it's football.
Yeah.
And I'm just trying to find the right niche where I really feel comfortable in doing. I don't know. I always have this vision or this idea of doing something with what I've achieved through football, the contacts I've made, the money I made and stuff like that, to build something that can even grow bigger and get bigger than football in terms of what it gives me for life. And but yeah, it's a lot of thought process in there, but I have to get started. That's the main thing, because that's the one thing I realized, like, if you have all these ideas, that's nice,
execute,
but ideas alone, they won't put food on the table, and they won't make things happen. They won't fulfill you. Action. You have to put in action and execute. So that's that pretty much. I can even say in terms of QPR, we have all these visions, but we need to execute properly. We didn't execute for the last few games, so that's probably the next thing that I'm gonna tackle. And apart from that, there's always, as I said, things in my mind, and maybe not 100% on the thing yet that I've decided for, but punditry would definitely help. So if you boys ever need help with something, if you got any link ups, shout me.
Definitely.
But yeah, as you said, I'm interested in loads of things, and yeah, why not? I could see myself doing multiple things as long as it's like within something I can represent, I can stand for. That's fine by me.
Leon, very last one. We've got a new feature on this podcast where we ask our guests to recommend a potential guest in football to come onto this platform. So you've been given the almighty task of recommending a potential good fit for us to get onto this platform.
First name that comes to my mind is William Truus Ekong.
Okay.
My national team Dutch Nigerian brother. I think he's, in terms of, that's why we get on so well on the pitch and as well as off the pitch. I think he's also somebody who thinks very much outside of the box. I think his story is also very interesting. I don't know, he played in like 7 different countries or something.
I think Udinese as well, right?
So he's been about, to get to the Prem, and which obviously he fulfilled for himself last season. They just got back on track, so they're pretty much on course to at least have a goal and get back up there. I think he's got a great business mind, probably.
Okay.
He's a very, very interesting character. Just based on the way he grew up, the influences he had on his life, fascinating career, really.
He's playing for his like boyhood club as well. He's a Watford boy, apparently.
This I don't know.
Okay.
And I'm not even trying to say that's a lie. I wouldn't be able to tell. But it's just no. Listen, just I don't even want to say too much about it, but definitely the phrase "earned, not given" is big for him, but it definitely is accurate. He can tell you more about it if you decide to invite him on here, but I think he would be a great fit. He's got loads of things to tell, very, very interesting stories to tell, whether that's about the national team or just his club career. I think that's really inspiring. Similar to in a similar way to mine, but just from a different perspective again, because I had to go through a lot of hardship, but in different ways than he had to, and it's just very inspiring for the vast majority of football players who think Neymar and Mbappe is just that's just it, because there's just loads of other football players who are not that exceptional, but who are substantial to the game. Without them, there's no game, because and I don't even want to call us average players, but we're just not that level.
They call it the mere mortals. Then there's that's what people
exactly. And I think he's got a very, very inspiring story to tell, just from that point of view alone, because I think he's sacrificed loads in order to get where he's at today, and I think that will be very interesting to hear.
Just final one from me, obviously, because it feels like we've spoken a lot about Rangers and Nigeria and stuff. Obviously, we respect QPR fans, so we want to give you a final message to them.
Oh, pretty much I just want to say thank you, because the way they've welcomed me from day one obviously played a massive part in me settling down quickly. The acceptance was really amazing. I was really, really impressed with their away support over the past few games. That has been outstanding. Even though we probably let them down, so they can feel disappointed. That's fair enough. But yeah, thank you for your support. I hope I'll see you all at Loftus Road come the 11th, I think, of December against Burnley, and then let's get back onto this mission together and make sure it's a successful one.
Leon, it's been an absolute pleasure. Towards the end, obviously, one of the cameras died, so apologies for that. So one camera will just be on Leon
at least we got
for the last 15 minutes. No one cares about us, everyone cares about you. So that's another episode of the Beautiful Game podcast. Leon, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for being open, transparent, and we always know you're going to be honest with us, so thank you.
Thank you as well.
We're going to leave it there.
We're going to come to Loftus Road this season
Definitely.
as well.
Be my guest.
For 2 years.
No problem. Be my guest.
Thank you. We're going to leave it there. Over and out. Peace.